Hey, welcome fam to the week four recap. And this week I have a special guest with me. We have, well, I call him Uncle Andy, but we have Andy Stevens with us this week. Thank you for being with us, sir.
Hello, good to be here. Nice
Pre-
to be on.
Appreciate having you. I appreciate you taking time out of your week. I'm glad you get some time off this week. That's actually helpful to finally get you on here too.
Enjoying it.
So as I did last week, I'm going to ask you the same thing. But how are you connected to the family?
Well, in a lot of ways, obviously, Casey and yourself are my brother Jim's sons, my nephews. Tyler is my sister Stacy's nephew. I know Zach and Mindy and that whole family through Jim, and love visiting them every time I come to Indiana. Um, On my side, I've got Louis. Licho is my brother-in-law. He's married. I mean, he's my wife's brother, and he's also kind of my brother out here in Omaha. And then his son Kyle is down in Texas, and he's our nephew. And he works on those wind turbines down in Texas. So that's kind of how I'm connected.
That's crazy. I can't wait to actually ask him about that then, because that seems just nutty and some cool photos, but at the same
He has
time,
some
man, you gotta
very good photos.
yeah, you gotta be able to withstand that. So kudos to you, Kyle, on that. So how long you been playing fantasy football?
Uh, Probably around 15 years. I'd been with a league that I still play with, and unfortunately, I'm not doing very well in that league. But I've put a lot of focus on this year with this league in particular, so I'm enjoying this more so.
Yeah, I would say the same. It's like my truly, I know I say that my big money league all the time is because in the big money league I have, it's every transaction is $5. So if you pick up a waiver claim, if you pick up a free agent, if you trade somebody, like you both then owe $5. And so the prize pool gets to be to a point where I took second the first, this is my third year, took second my first year in it, and I took home like almost $900 in this league by taking second. So I can tell you, the first place got like $1,500.
I don't know
So
that the allowance I get would afford that. So
I had the most transactions, I will say, because I didn't understand it. So I think I ended up paying about $300 to earn 850, but I'll take it. I'll take that as a takeaway. But
then
yeah, no kidding. But I feel you. But this year, it's like that's what was so tough. It's like, man, I keep losing, and this is the league that I care most about. So, so that's awesome. Well, you've been doing it for 15 plus years now. So, what's like one tip that you have for some of us who don't play as often?
well, when I'm drafting, I'm still looking for the best players available, but what we got coming up here in week 6, we start hitting the bye weeks, and you really need to look at your bench strength back at that point because it's going to really take effect when you have people on bye and you have replacement players in. Um, Unfortunately, too, I've been dealing the last 2 weeks with injuries, as have others. So I think bench strength is real important in this stretch of the season. If you want to make the playoffs, that's one of the things I would take a hard look at. You go through waivers carefully. Make sure you make your moves, think them out before you just start making moves. Maybe if you put $5 on it, people think a little bit more than that.
Yeah, it makes you think a little bit about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I actually agree with you. I think that's where it was an interesting strategy that I will say I never really drafted the way that we all drafted, and it's a reason I ended up with fucking Tom Brady because I pushed on quarterback thinking I can get these guys later, and people kept taking them earlier than I thought, and then at that point I'm like, well, where's the value? Well, shit. I mean, I know Kyle Pitts sucks ass right now, but he was touted as like number three guy. People take him in the third or fourth round. I think I got him in like the eighth or ninth round. I was able to get a top end running back in round three. And it's like you start to do these things where, like you just said, I'm thinking about when we have those bye weeks, when we have injuries that will no doubt happen. Do I have somebody that can just step right in and replace them, and I still have a solid team? Because the early part of the year is, that everybody's kind of going because they got everybody healthy. But yeah, as you get in the middle of this year, it gets to be a challenge. So I like that as something.
And it's coming. It's after this next week. Bye weeks are here, and injuries are still going to happen, and you better be ready.
Yeah. Um, One last question for you. I know you said you mentioned you don't get to Indy as often as we all would like you to get to Indy. And trust me, I don't either. But when you're down there, you definitely have some fun. Um, what's it like having like an edible and then going golfing? What's that like?
It's it sucks. I mean, thank God I had somebody to drive the cart for me, but
Thank you,
I had
Tyler.
to get in after the 13th hole, and then we got into a rain delay. And
Oh,
be careful what you wish for, I guess. So
I won't go into the story, but the only thing I can tell you is I remember showing up to the golf course and you telling me that because I made these special cookies and you telling me that you had a quarter of it the night before and you only felt it a little bit, so you're like, oh, okay. And so you ate the other three quarters that morning and ate the rest of it.
oh, it was so damn crumbly that it was just getting everywhere. So I thought, might as well just
Might
get
as
rid
well eat
of
it all. And oh my God, once you
it.
told me that, I was like, this is
Oh,
about to go bad. And it went awry pretty
it
quickly.
went
So
bad.
it was one of the best stories of all time. I absolutely love it, but I had to throw that one out for you.
Yeah. And then sitting in the clubhouse during the rainstorm didn't really help
Oh
matters.
my God, you were head on the table, like, oh, when is this going to be over?
It was a bad, bad situation. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh man. Well, let's just say you got your ass whooped a little bit. So that's a good transition into someone else getting their ass whooped this week. So we'll get focused on the fantasy
Sure.
football as we always do.
But hey, first of all, I'd like to toast you for your first victory of the season. I made a special drink for you.
Oh yeah,
I
what's
did.
that drink?
It's a Aquarius grapefruit cocktail. Little ruby red grapefruit juice, vodka, and then you put a big dash of victory in it. And I tell you, it's a sweet tasting drink. It's
Oh,
the best thing. You got to try one sometime.
oh my God. Well, the grapefruit smashed me. You got to at least smash the grapefruit this time. So okay, you brought that in.
So
Uh,
yeah, let's
little
get your ass
underhanded,
whooping.
comment right there.
Yeah,
Love it. Well, unfortunately, he didn't whoop his ass enough to earn ass whooping of the week because Zach earned those honors this week by whooping ass on Allison. I think he had just shy of 164, not the record so far, by the way, but he was damn
sweet.
close
Good deal.
to Allison's like 125 something. So it's about a 38-point difference. That's pretty much an ass whooping. And really, unfortunately for Allison, she would have beat half the people in our league with the score that she had, but she ended up going up against Zach. So before we get into some of the highlights of that, kudos to you, Zach. You win high score of the week. So cheers with your Aquarius grapefruit drink.
You go, Zach. Not that you need your head any bigger, but
No,
congratulations.
yeah. And so that's four different people with the high score of the week.
I think that's real important. And there's a couple other teams coming up that really kind of concern me. But the good thing to hear about that is with four winners in the first 4 weeks, that just shows how much parity and how competitive this league can be. And I think everybody, if they maintain it, I think everybody's going to share in that prize. And it's a neat thing to see.
Yeah, it is. That is cool. And you're right. Four people in a row, four different people. I mean, that shows you there's, like you just said, not someone who's technically dominant so far in the
Right.
league, and it can go up and down either way. So, pretty cool to see. But yeah, I know that Zach had four running backs going this week, and all of them, I mean, they outpaced his team. I think they pretty much had almost 100 of his points, where his four running backs were about that. And then he had Mahomes adding another 25 on top of that with some fancy passing this weekend. What else did you see?
Yeah, I mean, he was solid all the way up and down. I mean, he's been looking for Dobbins to come in. He had a solid week. I mean,
Yeah, two
McCaffrey
touchdowns, I think.
Huh?
Two touchdowns, I think.
Yeah, he did. And I mean, even Aaron Jones was his lowest scoring running back, and he still had a solid 17.2. And And Mahomes is just so fun to watch. I mean, I can watch him all. We get to watch him out here in Omaha all the time, but he is just so fun to watch.
He truly is. It's funny when Zach and I were talking about it. He truly is the best quarterback in the league, in my opinion. I mean, I know you've got these guys like Josh Allen, who's obviously very good and he's a great player, but for the actual just quarterbacking of a team, I mean, you can't get any better than Mahomes, who can throw it in any style. He has an absolute cannon for an arm, is super accurate, and he just is elusive in the pocket. I mean, he moves around and gets to where he's wanting to throw. He's not trying to run; he's trying to throw the ball, which is pretty
Absolutely.
cool to see. Allison had some good players. I mean, Jamal Williams came in. He stepped in for DeAndre Swift being out. Had an absolute great game. You had Saquon Barkley, who continues to be. I mean, I think he's now the number one running back in fantasy football, at least in some of the leagues I'm in. I know I have him in one, which I'm happy for because I have
I
him in
think
CMC.
if Saquon stays healthy, he could be the pickup of the year right there
Yeah,
because a lot of people wrote him off because he's had injuries the last couple of years, but definitely a strong pickup, and he's been proving it. So,
yeah. I don't know where she drafted him this year, but I do know that I was able to get him in the back end of the second in a 12 team. I mean, I think he was picked number 23 because yeah, because I was in the beginning, I was number two pick. So then I had the back end of the snake on in the round two, and I was able to get him. I was amazed. It was one of those where I'm like, well, I guess I'm drafting Saquon here because he's available for me. But
yeah, I wish I was that intuitive because I always thought he's an injury risk, so I kind of stay away from it. And he's proven me wrong big time. Not that I'm an expert, Kyle, but putting that out there.
Well, and here's a tip for others. I mean, I know they talk about it in just different podcasts, but when people are coming off that ACL
Yeah.
tear, that first year back is there. I mean, they always tell you that it's not their. It's the second year back that they're coming back at full strength, and that's really what he did, and that's why I felt more confident in him drafting him. But just for those who maybe don't know, when you get the ACL tear, that first year, not that they can't be productive, but they're just not going to be as great as they could be. So
Right.
but kudos to you, Zach, for winning the ass whooping of the week and winning the high score of the week. That seems to be kind of a trend I've noticed as well. As I think when someone gets a high score, they usually get the ass whooping of the week as well, which seems to make a lot of sense. Next game we're going to is actually finally I get a victory.
Yay!
Yay! Yeah,
No
no,
teams have not won a game yet. That's
and,
awesome.
and no team is undefeated. So I think it's another thing that you're talking about, the parity of we're anywhere from 3-1 to 1-3. We're all right there bunched together. So it's pretty cool. I got lucky because I got a good start from Higgins and Mixon, but so did he with Tyreek Hill. So I mean that was already starting off well, rough, but I
Yeah.
think I was able to get some solid performances from most people except for Kyle Pitts, who continues to fucking suck. So he's kind of pissing me off. But other than that, I actually did get worried last night when Jeff Wilson scored a touchdown so early. I'm like, oh shit, here we go. He's about to go nuclear on me, and I'm about to lose this game. But it didn't quite happen.
Jeff Wilson's another one. If he stays healthy, he could be the leading running back for San Francisco for this year. So it's probably a good
Yeah.
pickup by Louis. I'm breaking the bro code because I'm not rooting for him, but hey, you are true family. So congratulations on your win.
I appreciate it. It kind of helped me that Lamar Jackson was playing in some rain and didn't have such a great game either. Because
No,
I
he
think
did.
if he had his standard games of this year, I would have lost that matchup. So I got kind of lucky there. But that's what also happens, right? I mean, you got these guys that are outperforming what they're going to do. They start to come back to earth a little bit.
Well, I don't think Baltimore's defense is doing them any favors right now because they are just like a sieve and they're just getting chewed up on yardage and it's making him have to go out and work even harder. And I think sometimes he tries too hard.
Yeah.
So you're going to have games like that. It's going to happen with a superstar like that.
That's why Jared Goff. I mean, he was on my bench, so I didn't play him. But Brady had a great game, so I was lucky to have Brady, go off as well and have a really nice game. But I mean, Jared Goff same way. They have the worst defense in the league, and so he has to throw all the time. And now he's like one of the top performing QBs. I mean, I think he's a top 5 quarterback, if not even higher this year,
Well, and
so
the other
far.
thing I see with you is all of your receivers performed very well. I mean, your running backs were solid, but all your receivers did really well. And also, congratulations to you for making Romeo Dobbs the most added and most dropped person in ESPN football because of all the transactions you did. That was incredible.
Yeah.
Uh, it worked out well for you. I think God, he almost had two touchdowns.
Oh,
That would have
if
been
you'd have had that
awesome.
other one, oh, that would have been beautiful.
He
But
still
it,
won. That's good.
Dobbs looks like he's going to be good, and unfortunately, the trade that I made with Louis didn't really work out for me because Michael Thomas ends up being out this week with a turf toe injury, and CEH has his best week.
Yeah,
So,
5+ points. Yeah.
congrats, Louis, you asshole.
Tell you
All
what,
right, well now we're on
put
to
together a team. So watch
yeah.
out.
Louis got a nice squad going. I mean, he had 120 points or 125 points. I mean, nothing to gawk at there. I mean, he's been consistently performing. So he's been doing well. He's somebody I'm a little worried about, especially for a guy who never played before. He seems to be putting up good numbers.
Yep.
So I think he leads our league in points. By the way, if I'm not mistaken, if I looked at that, he's got the
Well,
most points.
you and I are the two lowest scoring. I saw
Yeah.
that.
Why do you
So
think I'm still number one on waiver? Yet I won and had a nice week. I'm still the number one waiver priority this week, but we'll get into that later.
okay.
But Tyler, actually, Tyler, the game next I got. He's got another team that's rolling right now. I mean, I think he's got 2 weeks in a row of putting over 130. He's had some really nice weeks, or maybe he didn't put it up last week. I don't know, but he's got some good players on there, and he ended up
Yes,
winning 139 to 120 over Bandwagon Bob. But he had a lot of guys that went off. I mean, Murray, he had Evans that go off. His wide receivers did well. Kelsey, Marquise Brown, all those guys. Brees Hall was his best running back. And Taylor, I mean, he just went down. He got injured, so he's not going to put up as
right.
many points. But he had a really nice week with 139 points.
Yeah, he's got another. He's another one that has. It's those silent, quiet ones you got to worry about. That's the ones you got to watch. But the only thing I would probably advise him on his bench is pretty weak, and he probably needs to address that before we get into buys. But I mean, just think about everybody he has. Once Taylor starts getting going, and Indianapolis gets their head out of their ass or whatever. But he's got a solid squad, and I mean, everybody performed well except there's Amari Cooper. He has that one big game that he had against me, and then disappears.
Yep.
So that's
Typical Amari Cooper. That's exactly what's going to happen for you. I mean, he's going to have he's a boom bust guy. I mean, it's
yep.
like me and Mike Williams. I mean, Mike Williams is going to have those 2 3 point games, and he's also going to have these 25-point games. So,
Good,
um,
good with the bad.
yep. And that's kind of another tip for people. That's where when you're constructing a lineup, you try to go for a mix of both. You try to get people that are consistent and every week, hey, he's not getting me a ton of points, but every week he gets me 12 to 15. Like you'll take that. If you can get a guy that can get you 12 to 15 every week, and then I got a Mike Williams on top of that who could go off for 25 or 30, like I mean that's you don't there aren't many Cooper Cups out there, right? There aren't guys that Cooper Cup last week had his down week of 15 points, right? I would have taken that all day, and they had a rough week, So
He has a solid floor. Somebody you can depend on. He's going to get his catches, but yeah, I mean, he's got a pretty good balance of some people. I
yeah,
mean, even like Brandon Cooks. I mean, we thought Houston was going to be crap this year, and they're actually playing pretty well. And Brandon Cooks, how many years, how many different teams has he been? 1,000-yard receiver and just somebody that shows up every week. So yeah, we got to watch out for Shem dogs and
yeah.
keep an eye
Bob,
on them.
I mean, Bob finally had Austin Eckler running back for the Chargers go off, so that was nice to see. I have him in another league too, so it's nice to actually have him put something up in a huge game. I mean, that was a 35-point outing for Eckler, so he had a huge game, and unfortunately, Hurts didn't have one of his big games this week, so he had his lowest week total, I guess, of the year so far. But he had a
Right.
couple big games. I want to say, yeah, Debo. I forgot Debo's catch just last night kind of vaulted some people into a nice spot, but just didn't have enough juice this week from Bob to get her done.
I know, but I got to play him next week, and I'm worried about it because he's got a squad.
Yep. Another person who can put up some points. I mean, once again, that's what you said. That's kind of a nice part about the league. You got most people that can do that. Actually, the person I'm probably most worried about, I think you and I talked about this, is in the next matchup. Sucka Dicka. You got Sam, Allison's brother. He's got a really nice three-headed monster at running back right now. 2 weeks in a row, all three running backs have gone for 20 plus points. I mean, that's big. That's huge. And the Yeti, what they call him the Yeti, but Derrick Henry, he's starting to shape into form right now, and getting as it gets colder, the Yeti starts to get a little bit tougher to bring down. But he kind of whooped up on Case's Aces, beat him by over 20 points.
Yep. I think
On some Aces.
he's got a, and I just want to say suck a dick because I think that's such a great name. But, I'm telling you, he's got a stable of running backs, and he can plug any of them, and I think he'd be safe. Not to mention he has a couple top end receivers that are going to produce week in, week out. But yeah, I think he's somebody that we're going to have to reckon with as time goes on.
Yeah, and actually he's got another player that I think of when I think of those consistent guys, Cortland Sutton. I mean, Sutton has put up double-digit points every single week. However, he hasn't gone over 20, I don't think, in any week, but he's always between 12 and 18 points. Hey, that's a great solid wide receiver too to have on your team. And with these guys that are playing as well as they are, I mean, that's where it comes into play. Like, when you've got three running backs going for 20 plus points, and now you have somebody that's consistent as well and putting up points. I mean, that's huge. If you can, I think in this league, if you're going to be able to score 130, 135 consistently, you're going to win more, you're going to lose. That's just how it is. So really nice game from them. And unfortunately, Cases didn't have enough. I mean, I think Mariota just sucked. I think, he looked good at the beginning of this year, and we'll see how well he does. But he's got another tough matchup next week against Tampa Bay. I mean, Tampa Bay is not a defense. I mean, I know Mahomes. Mahomes can do that to anybody. It doesn't matter who it is. But Tampa Bay still has a really solid defense, and I don't know if Mariota is going to be able to do anything against them.
Pissed off next week. They're going to be pissed off against.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I mean, Cooper Kupp got 20 points, I think. Yeah, but no one else really did. Oh no, I forgot. They wasted Josh Jacobs' huge game, man.
Oh, but you're not going to start. Well, not on. No, Jacobs. They started.
No, that's what I'm saying. Josh Jacobs, no, but they
wasted it.
Squandered it because he scored almost half their points, and he had a huge game.
But then they had Hockenson sitting on the bench with almost 36 points, but you're not going to start him over Andrews.
No, you and I already talked about this. No, you're not starting him over Andrews, but I would have started him definitely over Antonio Gibson. I'm sorry. I wouldn't. Antonio Gibson's kind of garbage. I mean, even with the amount of run he's getting, because I still have a theory that Antonio Gibson's the one who shot Brian Robinson. That's my fucking theory. All right. He knew he was losing that job. And randomly right before the, week one game, Brian Robinson gets a non-lethal leg injury, shot twice in the leg, non-lethally. So I'm like, oh, odd. And now Antonio Gibson's all of a sudden starting again. Get the fuck out of here.
Well, I hope he bounces back from it because I got him on my IR for him to come back.
Oh, you probably gave him the gun, you fucking asshole.
Maybe he's my saving grace. Hopefully, knock on wood.
But yeah, I would have honestly played him over them. And if you do that, you win. Like, I'm not kidding. I would have played him over Gibson. I just don't have any trust in that man. So I would have played Hockenson. And the reason I would have played Hockenson is they were literally out DeAndre Swift, Amon-Ra, and DJ Chark. They're top three players that are getting the ball. The next one is Hockenson. So he's now become the number one option in a game where they're going to have to pass. They're going to have to throw the ball. So I actually felt that was a bad move. I'm not saying you start him over Andrews because you start Andrews every week, but I would have made a different choice there, some Macy.
Well, yeah, so Macy, I mean, the owner can blame the GM all they want, but I think the GM did a solid job of putting the team together.
Yeah.
So,
the
owner needs to step up a little bit.
Yeah. But let's get to the last game of the week. I think this is one where you toasted to smashing some grapefruit this week, but that was you against Aquarius. Yeah, take a sip. Take a sip. Tell me about the victory.
Actually, again, it's been the third week in a row that I've had a starter go down, and it really kind of hurt you. But he had, he had Fournette on Sunday night, and then he had Higbee last night playing, and I was pretty much done. And so I had to sweat out. I had a 40-point lead, which I felt pretty comfortable with, but when I saw Fournette sitting most of the game, I was pretty relieved until the very end of the game. He scores that touchdown. That kind of hurt me. And then Higbee was catching all those passes. And I was kind of getting a little worried. But then as the game got out of control, I was feeling pretty relaxed. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, I had Higby going in my other league, and I needed him to have a decent night, and I ended up losing that game by 0.42 points. And,
Eee.
if he would have just caught one more pass, I could have won that game. So, and
And
I
one
was beat
ours.
by the highest score. That
Yeah.
really rubbed it in. So,
Oh, it's rough, man.
yeah, but it was a good contest. I mean, Russell Wilson finally showed up for me. I mean, Jefferson bounced back. Really, Olave starting to turn into a good receiver. So I
Yeah.
feel good about that. But I'm just getting beat up in my running backs. I lost Javonte Williams for the year, so he's
Yeah, it's a tough
gone.
loss.
So yeah, because he was my second pick and somebody I thought really had a bright future. So yeah, but
Well,
I squeezed it out. I mean, Allen didn't have a great game, but still scored 25 plus points, and he's always going to be dangerous. So
yeah,
I'm
agreed.
glad I pulled it out.
Yeah, and I think you losing Javante, that's a big loss. He didn't get to give you many points even up to that point, but he's such a talented player that he's now gone down with a major knee injury. And again, as we just talked about with Saquon, don't expect next year that Javante is going to be anything close to what he was this year. But hey, 2 years from now, like he when he's in the Saquon role of now he's getting drafted as running back 15. But trust me, he'll be back. He'll probably have a better role at that point because they might actually have some other, different depth on their team. He gets more run, and he might end up being a top 5 running back in 2 years. So
My biggest concern is he tore his ACL and his LCL, so he had two bad
yeah,
years there. So yeah, he'll be a
yeah.
long-term recovery. That's unfortunate because he was a good-looking player.
Yeah, I mean, and that wraps up kind of our recap of this week, but that leads us right into the injury update of he's out for the year, so you've got some decisions to make there. Of no, he's out for the season. Obviously, you just drop him. He just goes into free agency, but that means we'll get into free agent pickups here later and talk about some of
I
the
was thinking
things that
about
you can
dropping him and picking him up and dropping him and picking him up and see how that went, but
do.
I decided just to drop him.
Well, the best part is you can do that in this league. I didn't even realize that how I set it up, which I'm actually thankful for. I will say, I hate when someone drops a player and then you can't pick them up. I don't like the waiver in that sense. I like the waiver at the beginning of the week, like we got tonight, right? So you got waiver time, you got to get your waiver stuff in. But I don't like when someone drop somebody on a Sunday thinking that they can just hide that person. Like,
Right.
no, someone should be able to scoop that person up right away. So I actually like that it's set up that way. At this point, but he wasn't the only guy that got hurt. Jonathan Taylor, he got a high ankle sprain, but they're trying to talk about him potentially playing this week, which I don't get it. Just let the man rest. Give him at least a week off because it's not even like he gets a full week to rest. They're playing Thursday night.
4 days. Yeah.
Yeah, on a high ankle sprain. That's ridiculous.
I'm a big believer in letting a player rest till they're perfectly healthy and then getting them back out on the field. But, in the competition of winning, you got to get them out there. So,
Yeah.
if if you have him, I would limit my expectations on him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he sets out too.
Yeah, I mean, I think he should. And it's funny. I think about this as a manager of DeAndre Swift. So when he came in week 2, he already had the ankle injury from week 1, and no, I think it was week 3. Sorry, it was week 3 because he came off of an ankle injury, and it's one of those where you think about it, you're like, man, you kind of wish they just sit him because that re-injury risk is so high. And I just think, man, I'd rather have him later in the season and for a longer period of time than have to make the decision that if
Right.
Jonathan Taylor comes back and plays this Thursday night, are you actually going to not play him because you think, okay, they're going to rest him a bit, or not going to get him run? No, you're playing him. Like you're playing him, and yet he has this risk that he's either A, going to get re-injured, or B, just not put in a good performance because he's got a fucking high ankle sprain against humongous men that are trying to beat him.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I get it.
So that's a tough one. A few more that I wrote down. Cordero Patterson went on IR, so that's a huge one for DeQuarius Grapefruit. So that's a really tough one
That's a blow.
um, to meet
Yeah,
with
he'll
that.
be out for 4 weeks at least.
Yeah, so he's gone for a little while. So you got to think about that. Tua's out this week. You got even Traylon Burks is probably out for a few weeks. He's a wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans, but. Another guy, Jamison Crowder, wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills, he broke his ankle. So
Yeah.
Who knows what that means for either Isaiah McKenzie, who's out with a concussion. He's a wide receiver for the Bills too, but who knows what that
Hopefully that
means?
means Gabe Davis will get back in the game because he hasn't done anything yet.
Yeah.
So, and it'd be nice to see him get back in it.
Well, with some of those injuries, you might have to think about players to pick up. Like, who are some of the guys that you're looking at, that are important players that maybe people could pick up or look to if they're trying to fill an injury.
Well, I know that the big talk is, with Javante out, yeah, you got Melvin Gordon, but he's had a fumbling problem, and Denver just signed Latavius Murray today, and they got him in there along with Mike Boone. Quite frankly, I'd probably stay away from that situation because I've seen Mike Boone in the past, and he starts off good, and then he just tails off as the
Yeah.
weeks go by. He's not a consistent long haul runner. Latavius, you never know, but he's been around a while. As far as that, I mean, we obviously saw that. There's some backup players out there, but the risk is, are they going to get in and get enough time to give you points at running back? You've got, Rashad White in Tampa Bay. You've got
I like him.
Pacheco looked really good in Kansas City, but are they going to get enough time to really give you valuable points?
Yeah, I think right now you just got guys that you're picking them up and I shouldn't even say in the hopes you don't want injury for somebody, but you're picking them up in the thought that in case something were to happen to these other guys, maybe he'll get some run. At that point, but they're backups currently. Yeah.
As far as like wide receivers, I tell you, I think one of the more interesting things that's kind of occurred with Pittsburgh going to Kenny Pickett as a quarterback. They also have the rookie Pickens, their wide receiver, and I think he would be a great wide receiver pickup because they've already kind of established a rapport through training camp and preseason because they played a lot and they kind of have a hookup. Josh Reynolds in Detroit because there is talk that St. Brown might be out through their bye week just to get him healthy, which I hope not. But Josh Reynolds a good one. I do like that Alec Pierce in Indy. I don't trust Matt Ryan because he's
I know that's the tough part.
Another one that's on my team. So
yeah.
And then there's talk I saw on the waiver wires, ESPN, CBS, and all that. They're talking about Corey Davis, and I'm gonna tell you what, I've had him in the past, and he will let you down. He'll have a big game, and then he's kind of an Amari Cooper type. He big game, and then you never see him again. So,
but this year, man, he's got double-digit points in 3 or 4 games. Like he's surprisingly playing. He's under the radar, playing well
in all those games too. So
yeah.
That's part of
it. But he's playing on a team that's got to throw all the time because they suck. So they got to throw a lot. So that's the only good part. But the trouble for that is they added another wide receiver. Whereas like last year it was him and Elijah Moore. This year they added Garrett Wilson on top of already having Elijah Moore and Corey Davis. And Tyler Conklin's getting a bunch of targets at a tight end. So he could be a good pickup at tight end as well as a few others.
I would agree with that. As far as like we were talking about tight ends, I agree with Conklin. He's getting a lot of targets. There's a sneaky one out there in Seattle, and very touchdown dependent. But Will Dissly, if he's healthy, he gets a lot of red zone targets, and he does score. He's had double digits 3 out of the 4 weeks. He's getting about 4 or 5 targets, most of them in the red zone. He's one to look at, but the Indianapolis situation between Mo Alie-Cox and Woods, those 2 tight ends, you're going to gamble every week. You don't know who's going to be the one to go off. And I never even heard of Woods until the first week of the season. So I'd kind of stay away.
He's even bigger than Mo Alie-Cox. He's humongous.
They get the biggest tight ends I've ever seen.
He should be Jelani Forrest. I guess Woods are just the same, but man, he is big.
And one more last warning on a tight end is Taysom Hill. He needs to go get another job. I can't stand that guy. He vultures points from other players. He's not good as a quarterback. He's not good as a running back. And sometimes he drops the ball you know what? This wine opener is more valuable than a Swiss Army knife,
I don't yeah, he is that. He's got a weird role, and he still somehow has it a little bit. It's very odd, but Yeah, I don't know.
You had people
No
years past when
thanks.
you'd play quarterback, some people would pick him up and then he'd just burn him. So with zero.
Yeah,
So but that's
I
all
know.
I really had on mine. I don't know
No,
what else.
you actually hit on all the ones that I had as well. I think George Pickens is that's to me my number one ad. Just what you see what's going on and what might happen there, and you hit on actually a lot of the running backs I like, but they're all stashes. I mean, it's just something that you're putting away for a rainy day at that point, right? So that's kind of where you're at with that. But I thought those were some good ads. So thank you for that, Andy. But we do have a week 5 coming, right? So we're through week 4. We're stepping into week 5. Any matchups that you look at and think, man, that's a pretty solid matchup, especially for how close we all are.
There's 3 or 4 of them that jump off right away. I mean, but I think yours and Zach, that'll be interesting. Not to only see how that score
Yeah,
turns out, but to
yeah,
listen to all the smack talk between the two of
yeah.
you.
No shit. That's very true. But we did have the 2 high scores of the week, so that's what also makes it a little interesting this week.
I think you guys are a good matchup. I think Louie and Sam are going to have a tough match.
Yeah,
Allison, depending on what the Aquarius does, because I know he has some holes to fill. Allison and Kyle could have a tough matchup. And then I know Casey could use a win right now, and he has a close matchup with Tyler as well. So uh, they're,
yeah.
they're
A
all
lot of
pretty
tough
close
ones.
looking at projections, but
Even you and Bob, man, I'm telling you, you and Bob have been scoring
Bob,
similarly each week. So I think like all the games this week there's not one that I highlight to say like, hey, this is a huge game. I will say my game with Zach. I want to beat that guy. God, what an
I know
asshole he
you
is.
do.
He is such an asshole, and I
I
just
just
want
hope
to beat
Bob
him.
sleeps through ours. I hope he
Nothing
sleeps
but
through it.
yeah, nothing but love, Zach. You know, is how I love. But yeah, I just want to. I mean, I think he'll be the same about me. He's like, I just want to beat him. So like, that's just where it's at with that. I mean, when I face you, I'm going to want to beat you, Andy. That's just how it
Well,
is, right?
you know,
So
Zach wants to beat everybody, so you know how that goes anyway. But
that's why I'm glad he's not. That's why I'm glad none of us are undefeated, and none of us are now
exactly.
fully defeated. So that's the good news for that. But I will say, I mean, you have Licho and Suckadicka that are 2-2, and you have Grapefruit and Field Goal that are also 2-2. So it'll be nice to see who gets off the schneid there, and that battle is between standings in our league, because at the end of the day I had the lowest amount of points scored, but I also have the worst record. So I'm at the bottom of our league. But you're looking at some people that are like Licho has the most amount of points, but he doesn't have the best record. So the best record still wins. So just like any other sport, I mean, it doesn't really matter how many points you score or who scores against you. It's at the end of the day, it's about your record, and that's what matters here as well.
I would agree. And like I said, I think it's going to be a tight league all the way down to the wire. Like I said, I think Sam and Bob, they got some teams that we need to probably watch out for going down the wire. But
Yeah.
I'm sure Zach will chime in and have something to say about that too.
Well, speaking of Bob, I guess we've heard from him since then, but I think he comes down with a comment of the week. I got multiple people saying his comment about when he showed up and saw 100+ messages, and then he doesn't even respond. Oh, that was
Had the
good.
biggest chuckle out of that one. That was funny. I like that one a lot. Definitely. So
Yeah, Zach Allison likes your jokes too, so just be aware of that. She likes when you throw those in, but Andy, I appreciate you taking time with me to do this recap. I hope you enjoyed it. I
yeah,
always enjoy talking fantasy football with you. I know that helped. That's really what sparked this whole thing was you and I
and I
stayed
talked.
connected doing this, and we thought, man, wouldn't it be great if we just got everybody involved and we could do that, moving forward.
It's been my most fun league I've been in, and let's continue it.
Yep, I absolutely agree. But much love to you. Much love to everybody else out there.
Love
Uh,
everybody.
Yep. Good luck this week, everybody, except for Zach. And I will see you all.